Welcome to Foundation Repair Marketing Secrets, the podcast that's rocking the foundation repair industry. Discover how to boost your leads, raise your profits, and lift your digital presence. Together, let's dig deep and transform your foundation repair business.
Hey, it is Chayton from Foundation Repair Marketing Secrets. I am here today with Eric Morris, a longtime friend, but also a client. Everyone, welcome Eric. Eric, feel free to take the stage. Tell us a little about yourself and about your business.
Well, sure thing, Chayton. Yeah, my name is Eric Morris. I own a company called The Waterproof Group. We're located in Marietta, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. We're a small family-owned company, meaning my son is one of my head project managers. My wife is she answers the phone, does all the back-end management. I'm the operations guy, and my daughter, she works here as well. She answers the phone, schedules appointments, that kind of thing. So we're we're a small company. We have 2 crews, and our company is built upon our reputation, and that's what we shoot for with all of our customers.
That's awesome. Okay. So what got you into the business, Eric? Was it something that you saw an ad for on TV? You gotta get rich in foundation repair. Was it something that you had done as prior work?
Well, yeah, my whole life, I've been in construction. I mean, when I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to do was build stuff. I was great at building tree houses, and I used to I built the coolest forts, And when I was in junior high, middle school era, I started working for some house framers. A home builder would go around and clean up the job sites, burn off scraps and things like that. I used to call it blowing up paint cans because I'd throw all the leftover paint cans in the fire and they'd explode. But so I had that was my introduction to construction, and ever since then I just had a burning desire to build. That's all I wanted to do. And so I started there, and then I moved my way up. Long story short, I eventually got into construction management. I did not go to school for it, but I became what's called a field engineer in construction. Field engineer is somebody who works in the field, but they basically work on doing all the control lines. It's kind of like a land surveyor. You control the building, do all the layout, help schedule subs, help schedule just whatever the schedule may call for. The schedules are always hard to meet in fast-paced commercial construction. So you're part of that process. You're part of the management team, but you also help coordinate things in the field. That's what I did for a long time, and I got involved in the multifamily high-rise space. Built several buildings here in Atlanta. I'm very proud of. And
some big skyscrapers, right? Like some prominent stuff.
Yeah, some big ones, 50 stories. Atlantic Station, I did the Atlantic, 12 Atlantic, which is another 27-story in the same complex. Another building called the Realm. It's in Buckhead. A lot of these buildings were built by the same developer. It's called Novair Group at the time. They have a distinguished look. They all have green glass windows, so I know which ones are the ones. But we did several other types of buildings too. I mean, throughout the years, I worked on several, medical office buildings, precast structures. Went into even did some work in the heavy civil. I worked on a power plant up in North Carolina. Did some water treatment plants that were renovations and additions down off about the Chattahoochee River. And eventually I just made my way to the top. I was kind of well known to be a top field engineer, was in high demand. A lot of companies were trying to recruit me. I almost went to Dubai when they were building that area up. I was going to take a position with Turner, and I wound up not taking it, staying where I was at here in Atlanta because I have a family, and at the time my kids were small. So anyhow, the recession hit 2008, 2009, and I wasn't out of a job, but I was working for another company, but I was working out of town. And I had taken on the role of a assistant superintendent and also doing the field engineering as well. So it was kind of a lot to juggle. But anyways, I was miserable. I couldn't stand the people I was working with. Didn't like the people. It was a really not the greatest intelligent organization. It was a smaller company. Just wasn't happy, and I wanted to find something different, and I wanted to be back at home. So I got into, I had a chance to partner up with somebody in the restoration industry, doing, the restoration type work, water damage restoration, fires, that kind of thing. So I learned the insurance side of business, kind of like what ServPro does, working with Xactimate, did that for a while. But then along the way, I discovered a big need for what we do, which is foundation repair. And also we do waterproofing. Those two kind of go hand in hand. And what we do now is typically never covered by insurance. So it's kind of funny, I go from one industry where that's all we're targeting is, insurance related claims. And then now we're targeting nothing but things that are not covered, but it falls into kind of my background is structures and understanding foundations and why they're built the way they are, how they're failing, that kind of thing. And so yeah, that's my background. I guess in a nutshell, I've just been in construction my whole life. If you'd asked me 20 years ago, would I be doing waterproofing or foundation repair? I'd have said no. I would have had my own large general contractor company. And that's what most people know me. That's what they would expect to see from me. But I just didn't want the headache of dealing with a bunch of subs and just being a construction manager. I wanted to be specialized in one industry. And I feel like if we could specialize in one or two things and be the best at that, we could form this company around those things particularly, and we'd be much more streamlined, much more focused, and have a better team. And at the end of the day, have a better reputation and help our clients in the best way we can.
Right. Yeah, really be the steakhouse rather than the diner. Because everyone, not that it's easy, but there's a lot of people who can or are GCs. And as you referenced to in 2008, I even know some guys in real estate, as you and I have talked a lot about real estate, who are doing really well right now, or they're doing really poorly. There's some obviously in the middle, but similar to GCs, the things can go up, they can go down. But being a specialist, it seems like you're a little bit more incubated, not always, but you're still in demand no matter what. So maybe you could talk us through that some. Is what was the first year like being in the business that you're in today?
First year was kind of tough, trying to, capture leads, trying to build a name. And you're always building a name. I mean, since I've been in business, every customer, if we don't get a Google review, I'm wondering why. Is it in 90% of the time, that's because the customer just doesn't take the time to do it. But it just takes time. I mean, nobody knows you. And then you have your competitors that are local, that are more well-known. So you have to overcome that to find your place in your area, to find where you fit in at, and just being the best and being honest to what you do. And eventually, if you do the right thing, and if you're always honest and your goal is to help somebody and not so much gain from them, you're not going to lose. But you have to be dedicated, and even when things look grim, you have to realize that that's just the way business is. And you could change things and make tweaks. And that's kind of what I had to do along the way. I'm still doing it today. It never stops. I mean, I was just looking at the weather this morning thinking, my word, when is it going to rain? So we got rain coming this weekend. So next week we should be covered up in phone calls. But right now it's good to have a break because it hasn't rained in a while. But we're getting caught up on a lot of clients. Sometimes in our industry, what you'll find is that you can get backlogged. It's kind of like being a storm chaser. You wind up with all this work from bad weather events and you're playing catch up. And then when it doesn't happen again for a while, you're kind of relieved at first. But then if it continues, you get a little concerned, like, oh my goodness. And then next thing you know, you get slammed again. So trying to find that balance where it's a smooth path, whereas instead of, all this, like going down, it's more, like this. That's what I've been chasing for years, and I'm working on it now. And I'm just finding different ways to drive traffic, to build a reputation, working with you, helping us to make our company to do what I need it to do. But the first year is tough, man. If for anybody, I'd say just do a lot of networking. Don't be afraid to talk to people and sell yourself. And don't sell them a lie. Sell them honestly what you can do to help them, and what you would do as if it was your own home or your own property or your mother's house. What would you do? And that's the approach that I've always taken with every customer.
Okay, so 2 quick questions from that. How does Eric and team best try to ensure they get Google reviews each and every time? Obviously by doing a great job, by being ethical, but are you guys doing anything from the marketing end, like text messages or emails or phone calls, just kind of poking them a little and reminding them, hey, these Google reviews are really important?
Google reviews are so important. And it's kind of sad that one mothership company has so much control over every service businesses out there. But it's just the way it is. Google is super powerful, as we all know. Everybody uses Google for everything. So it's very
ourselves
important.
Included. That's the fun. As much as you could love it and hate it, like we're part of the machine. On the other side, when we're going to restaurants and things, it's funny how that works.
Well, what's also, I'll say this real quick about that. What I don't like about that is that when there's a problem, you can't get in touch with Google to help straighten it out, but yet they have so much control over what you're trying to build and how much money of your own that you put into something. And this one little company has, they're not this receptive when it comes to addressing issues. I've had problems with my Google, my business listing for a few years now, and they cannot seem to get it right as far as the correct address, the correct phone number. It's just been a nightmare and trying to get somebody on the phone stuff. But anyways, with that said, the reviews are super important, and there's different ways to get them. There's a lot of ways, but what I'm doing right now is I'm using a field management software called Job Nimbus. It is just a kind of like a CRM, a way to write estimates, and communicate with the customers. They have a built-in system that links directly to Google, so you can send them an email or text with a link they just click on. It takes them right into the ability to leave a 5-star, or a 1-star review. And then when they click that clicks for them where they can write it in if they have something to say. That's the best way. I found that text message is the only way. And the other best advice I can give somebody to get reviews is have your lead technician, whoever's doing the work, to walk the job with the customer, or if it's whoever the sales guy, whoever, somebody walk that job when they are there. So you're in their face, walk the job with them and make sure they're happy, and then tell them, hey, it's super important that we get reviews. We're a small company and every review counts. Or if you have a bonus system, that's something I've done with my guys. I've set up a small, $20, $25 bonus for each review they get. And that helps drive them to do it. But even still, I still don't get enough reviews. We're nowhere close. But it's some kind of way to give them incentivized to do it. But if you're standing there looking at the customer and they say, yeah, I'll leave your review. Yeah, they can't say no. You send it to them right there while you're looking at them. Text it to them on the spot. I have my guys, I have them a QR code on their phone. They can just show that to the customer so they can scan the QR code and takes them directly to our Google listing page so they can leave their review. I have found that to be the most powerful way to get reviews, because nobody takes the time, especially by email, unless you do something really bad. You really made them angry. People will take the time to leave you a bad review. But when you do everything right and they're happy, when it's planned, trying to get that good review is tough, man. Nobody wants to take the time. So the easier you can make it, the better. And there again, field management softwares usually have something built in. There's third-party apps that do it. There's services that can do it. Or you can just set it up yourself. Just email them, text them. You're on your own. There's Emitter is one system we used to use for that, and it works okay. But the Job Nimbus thing works great. But really, the number one way is to make sure your head guy, technician, field management supervisor, whoever, somebody walks that job when it's done to make sure they're happy. Make sure there's nothing laying around. All it takes is one empty water bottle, some guy left in a bush, to go from a 5-star review to a 1. So you need to make sure somebody's walking that job to look at it, make sure it's clean, and the job's done right, and make sure they're happy. And then get that review while you're looking at them, whatever it takes. That's the only way. And I'd say 70% of the reviews I have were done when I had some crew leaders at the time that worked for me that were driven because they wanted their bonus for the review. They made sure they got it before they left that job. Past couple of years, I haven't had the most driven guys for that. And a lot of times the customer's not there. And the way my company's been structured, it's been hard to sometimes align the head technician with the customer being present. And then the whole review thing gets lost along the cycle of getting the final payment. But I've tried to make it a point now where I have my son to go to every job to inspect it when the lead guy says it's done. I still want somebody else to look at it, to meet with that customer, to get the review before we even submit for final payment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any sort of incentives you've ever done? You're doing it internal of your team, but have you ever said to people, hey, there's a $5 gift card to Starbucks on the end of this, or, giving them mailers, something maybe outside of the ordinary to extra incentivize it?
With customers, no. We've tried that with, we were targeting home inspectors at one point, and we sent out some emails, or I think we had a list. We did this, only did it once or twice. And I had a couple of home inspectors buy it, and we gave them like an instant $10 Amazon gift card. You can send it instantly by phone or by email or text, so that there's no mailing anything. They send you a lead. Here you go. You just give them the $10 coupon. It works really well. My wife handles that, but I know we've done it a few times, but I've never done it to a customer. I just don't feel like that. I feel like that's a little awkward, but I guess you could. I mean, if you was able to deliver that smoothly, some kind of way. But the whole getting the review with the technicians walking the job. Let me tell you this is how that happened. This is how I discovered it's such a powerful tool. I had hired a company to come to my house to install a new furnace HVAC system. It's a big job, expensive. And the lead technician was a very, very, very well-spoken young man, did a great job. I like dealing with him. And then he did this with me at the end of the job. He said, make sure I was happy. And then he said, if we got a little competition at the office that, we get a little $25 bonus for every review we get. And whoever gets the most reviews they get something else in addition, something that's small. I forget what it was. But he said, if it means a lot to me personally, basically he was saying it means a lot to me personally to leave him a good review. And if I said yes, and he's like, okay, well, I'll send it to you right now. And he pulled his phone out and started texting me the thing. And I was like, you know what, I see what he's doing. And this is super powerful because it made me feel like I was helping not the company I hired to do the work. I'm helping this guy that I've developed this small relationship with, this lead technician that I kind of like personally. And I'm going to help him personally by giving him a review so he gets his $25, So that's where I learned that from. And something about that, it changes the mindset of why customers leaving you the review. They're not doing it so much now for the company that they hired. They're doing it for the person who is there working at their house.
Right. Well, and it's a fun game too. So like thinking of human psychology, there's always incentives. If there are incentives set up, you're going to get more probability you're going to get out of what you want for giving those incentives. So like for them, they're not going to necessarily respond just if they make it a game and there's a leaderboard. But if management on your side, like in a foundation repair company, actually spends some time and says, hey, there's gift cards on the line, there's money on the line, there's a bonus, but also there's the leaderboard. And every week it's a thing. And it's not like we're going to spend 2 seconds on this. We're going to actually highlight it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be extreme. But them playing the game, seeing a leaderboard, seeing that Bob's always on top of the leaderboard and Bob's the old guy. Why is he getting the gift cards? I'm the young guy. I need the money more than he does, or whatever that is. Yep. That's great internally. And then also the same psychology that humans respond to incentives. with customers, perhaps maybe there is an angle while still trying to be in terms of service with Google and Facebook and, Yelp and all these review sites. But maybe there's something in simply, sending a handwritten letter that you have automated, as an example, external to your company. Or if you have an intern, maybe they can do that. And sending that to every customer that your lead technician had a good feeling about and didn't get the review on, they get a $5 gift card for Amazon or Starbucks or something, and a handwritten letter that just says, thank you so much. We appreciated working with you. Thought it was a great experience for both sides. If you feel the same way, we would love that opinion to be online. And the gift card's kind of shoved in there, and the blame of the message is, we enjoyed working with you. We want to say thank you with a card. Oh, and by the way, we would really love you to make a review. And you could do it one of two ways, that you don't have the review request at the end. That's just simply sent to them, even if they've done a review or not. That can then lead to referrals, maybe, something like that. You're kind of reciprocating to them, and they might reciprocate back more heavily than they otherwise would. But also for the review part, you guys can just do that for the people who didn't review. And unfortunately, you're kind of incentivizing them because they didn't do what you wanted them to do initially by having your lead tech or salesperson or whomever try to do it, and they don't do it. Now it's like, hey, here's phase 2, and they're seeing this card that's handwritten. Again, there's ways to automate that and outsource that and things, but they're also getting a little gift card. And then you're not saying you're getting the gift card because of the review, but you're doing all this nice stuff, which then may be the nail in the coffin to get said review, even if they didn't do it prior. So
yes, good
for
idea.
$5 plus, postage, 40, 50 cents, something like that. And like I said, you could do it for everyone. Perhaps, that's good for the medium and larger companies. They could spend that extra money, and they're just doing it more on a referral basis. For companies being more lean, maybe they just do that for the instance that they didn't get the review from that customer, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, little extra touch, or, having someone call from the office and say, hey, it's me, Susie. Hopefully you remember me from when you booked. We obviously did the work. You seem pretty happy. Just were curious if you guys were able to have a second to put a review online. It means a lot to us. You can incorporate that then with keep an eye out for the letter that we're sending your way. That kind of, you can do these things by themselves, or you can do them in tandem. The more you do them, the more chances you'll get those really powerful reviews. Because I'd be willing to bet, depending on the size of company, some companies would spend, like you said, $25, $20, something that they're paying their team member. They'd be willing to pay a customer $50 for a review. They can't do it per se. They might even be willing to spend $100 per review, and some even more.
Yeah.
So those are some quick little thoughts there, but let's get back to you. So really, okay, so you had your first year, you're doing things like networking. The second question I had on that, for your business model, give me, let's say, 2 or 3 different people who are the best to be networked with that you've experienced. We could say realtors. Maybe that's a good idea, but the reality of it is different than the idea. Who are 2 or 3 titles or roles of people that are best to be networked with well and consistently for a business like yours?
Well, I'd say anybody who goes in the same space that you do. So for foundation repair, you're usually looking at under a house, crawl space, basement, or maybe even the exterior, brick masons, that kind of thing. For me, the best person I would say for referrals for us would be realtors. Realtors that are busy, because you can have realtors that they're not the best business owners themselves. They're not as seasoned. So you want to work with good realtors that are busy, that treat their business like a business. But the one thing with realtors, I will say, is that, you got to be prepared to do everything last minute. And it's always, the due diligence is up tonight. It's always very, stop what you're doing, come look at this property, send me a quote before midnight, that type of thing. And I've done that. I've been out and looked at, properties on a Sunday, for goodness sake, writing estimates last minute. And I've won a lot of jobs by being that guy that will do that. I've also wasted a lot of time, so you have to kind of weigh that in, what is going to involve. But, real estate transactions are a good driver to drive the need to repair foundations or other trade or the services your company like ours may offer, like waterproofing or something along those lines. But I'd say that's number one, and we have noticed a downturn in that when the interest rates have really gone up this past year in the current state of our economy with all that, being with the, all the influx of money that went out to pay and everything's going up. It's paychecks.
The next show will get Eric into politics. we're going to have a Rush Limbaugh segment later.
It'll get me banned. We're going to be all banned everywhere. But
we're going to take this to Rumble.
Here you go. It's a Rumble show now. But anyhow, once we get past this rough edge, things will get better. There's already talks of interest rates coming down some next year, in the spring. But even that said, real estate transactions still happen on the regular. They're just not as common. But when you have a real estate transaction that's happening and there's cracks in the wall, people, that's a good motivating factor for somebody to want to fix their foundation. So that's why they're a good source for this type of service. Home inspectors, they're feeding off the real estate transaction business as well, because that's what drives them to do their job. They're getting called to inspect a home that somebody's looking to buy. So they're a great resource. I have a good relationship with a home inspector who sends me leads, and not super often, but I'd say, once a month. He's usually sending me something that he's looked at that needs us. And then I'll drop everything and go look at whatever he has going on. That's number one. Number two would be, who else sees the spaces you go in? So big remodeling companies, people who remodel basements specifically, that target basement remodeling. Somebody's doing a lot of that. That's a good network referral. They're going to be tearing out sheetrock. They're seeing things where they're going to expose foundation walls that have hidden problems that nobody even knew existed until you exposed it. Or maybe there's not sheetrock there. You see it, but they don't want it. They're telling their customer that this has to be dealt with. The wall's bowing. We need some foundational repair. We need piers. Maybe there's water issues. So that's somebody good to network with and have a good relationship with. And then likewise, if you're tearing out doing demo, like my company, we don't do build back. We're not, like I said before, we're not a GC. I'm not trying to do remodeling. Some guys may try to get into that, but I feel like you start wearing too many hats, you're not good at wearing any of them. Could I do it? Yes, I could, but I don't want to. So I refer that stuff right back to the restoration guy when I tear things out, and I give that work to him. It's a chance for him to not only build back what we tore out, but also possibly upgrade the whole basement for the customer, give them some options. So that's another good referral partner. And then I'd say for the last one, mitigation companies, people that go in and do dry outs, that are getting called out there for water coming in. More times than not, they're getting called for water issues that are not going to be from a covered loss, especially after heavy rain events. People call their local ServPro or their insurance company. They've got water coming in their basement. They don't know what to do. That ServPro or somebody like them comes out and, those that don't know, ServPro is a big mitigation style franchise. They're in the restoration industry. So they'll come out and they'll either do the work or give them an estimate on the spot if they don't think it's covered, and they'll set up some dehues and fans, and at the end of the day they'll probably tell them, hey, this is coming through the foundation, it's not something we can do, it's not covered by insurance, so they're not going to want to do it. So they'll just hopefully give that to you, and hopefully your company's set up to handle that and can offer that customer some assistance. Because it's not going to be covered by insurance. I've never really seen a circumstance where it is. Maybe once on a new construction home. Yeah, I think they were going back after the builder. The insurance company covered it, but the builder had to compensate their insurance. So it's not covered. So they're not going to want to do it. So restoration companies will be a great referral partner as well. I've had good success targeting those types of companies. And then you can go a step further. I mean, HVAC companies, a lot of times the basements or crawl spaces have the furnace that they're going into to look at. So they're going to see things that you would see. They typically the places that we work in. So yeah, I'd say those were the best ones to target. And join your local, B&I chapters or a lot of guys are scared to join them. They're not cheap to join. I think they charge $800 or $900 a year. But it's well worth it. Find a local one. You can visit many of them, find one you like. There's likely not going to be another tradesman that does what you do. That's what I've found. I mean, I think out of all the chapters in my area, there's a bunch. I think only one has a guy that does what we do. So I can visit all of them. It's an inconvenience to go to B&I meetings every week. It's a commitment.
I was going to say,
it's a commitment.
It's like you said earlier, the $800 or $900 is it's expensive, but it's not expensive relative to how much you can make from them. You really look at the expense and you go, man, all this headache of going to these meetings and listen to people, do a song and dance about the same old, like, I know what a realtor does, man. I don't need to hear it, all the time. I know what a banker does, but yes, you are right. They are powerful. And it's kind of funny.
Go ahead, Shade. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. You're the guest. You're saying, just so you know.
I was just going to say, I've been a member of BNI I've been this past year, okay, and I'm part of a small group, and from year to date, and it hasn't even been a full year yet. I think I'm at $120,000 in revenue from BNI alone. So it cost me $900. It cost me an hour and a half, one day a week at 7:30 in the morning, which can be a pain in the butt to get to sometimes. But, it's definitely paid for itself times, I don't know, was that a lot? So
100x at least.
Well,
that's revenue. Of course, we got the profit that comes out. So if it made you 120, you look at your margins, but still exactly. many times more than the 800, 900 and the time that you spent. Because frankly, once a week, I'm sure everyone goes to a junk lead or something like that. And the drive alone takes them an hour and a half between going there, getting back to the office, that kind of thing. What about salespeople doing B&I? I always wondered that at scale. What do you think of the sales, for larger tech firms? Have you ever tried that? I've had sales guys work for me, and I've had them go to my B&I meeting for me in my place before. And it's okay. I mean, it's not something I would want to make a habit out of, because it really needs to be the owner or somebody close to the owner, because the relationships you build there are long standing. It's the long game. And it's not just B&I. There's several other, I think there's another group similar to B&I, has a different name. PowerCore out of Atlanta, I believe.
Yeah. PowerCore. And then any of your local events. I mean, get involved with the local chamber. A guy I know that owns a successful mitigation company here in town, has been doing it for a long time. His best advice to me was to make it a dedication, make it a commitment to go to at least 2, but shoot for 3 networking events a week. And that's a lot. It's hard to commit to that, but shoot for that and go there and shake hands with people and talk to them and try to remember their names, get their information. And I used to, and I haven't done it in a while, but when I do gather people's information, I get their cards, I shoot them a personal email, usually the next morning or something. So that way I have their information, keep their card, maybe create some kind of list and try to reach out to them on occasion. I don't want to bombard anybody, but yeah, the networking is very powerful. It can seem monotonous and mundane. And some people, it's hard to come out of their shell to do it, because it's not for everybody, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's just like riding a bike. I mean, you got to learn how to do it and practice. And then, after you've done it several times, it's not that difficult. But, I still get nervous sometimes when I walk in a room and it's a lot of people I just don't know, and I'm about to go in there and try to chat it up with a bunch of strangers. It's but I look at it as like, is that I'm not doing it for Eric, okay? I'm doing it for the people that work for Eric in the company. I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for everybody here. This company is, it provides a living for me, but it doesn't just provide a living for me only. Everybody that works here and their families depend on me to go in there and talk to those people. So that's the way I look at it. And it's a good way to look at it to motivate yourself that it's not for you. You're doing it for your team.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And it's funny enough, at least we're not selling insurance or financial advisors where we're going in there trying to sell those people.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's where it's got to be really awkward. And I'm sure you've been the recipient of that. I have too. We're at a point you almost just want to get a financial advisor and be like, I'm covered. Thank you. All good. They're a high school friend. That's actually, I ended up doing that in real life. I was like, it's an old buddy of mine. We're good. Appreciate it. Don't need to switch. But what's beautiful for your business and for the audience here is when you're networking, whether it's you or your team, you don't have to pitch the people there. And frankly, what's cool is when you're around these people, like you already mentioned, the referral partners, I'd imagine you've experienced this from time to time. They might jump at you and be like, oh my, I needed someone like you a month ago, or I needed someone like you throughout my whole 10-year career. And I could never find anyone honest or able to be on site or, whatever it was. The price is always wrong. These other people are rip-off artists. I wish I had met you 5 years ago, 5 months ago, what have you. For you, in theory, it's certainly much easier because you're actually like a highly valuable person there. You're not stealing value. You're really there and just giving value. And guess what? Those people there may also need Eric and his foundation repair business. But that's kind of like a side thing. So you're not even having to pitch or sell or anything like that. People in certain cases, tell me if I'm wrong, I'm sure some of those events, they've been like, I need your info. I need your help for myself and or for my customers or clients.
All the time. I hear that every time that I go to a new networking group. I always hear that at least once, especially if it's rained recently. I mean, you'll get slammed with opportunities. Now, a lot of people, sometimes these networking groups, they'll say that just kind of, they may not be the best at following through. You may have to stay on top of them, but still, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you stay consistent, I think BNI's rule of thumb is that you're supposed to make like 10 touches with somebody before they'll really buy from you, and that's true. It just takes a long time for people to remember who you are. And especially for an industry like mine or ours, I should say, is a lot of times it's emergency driven. I need answers now. So where do people go when they would need an answer to a question right now? They go to Google. So, having a good presence online is very important. Have a good website, of course, your listing on your Google My Business page, all that super powerful stuff. It has to be accurate, and you want to come up when people are searching in your area so they can find you. And of course, the reviews, or you're setting yourself up for the sale when you have reviews that back up what you do. And they're, the more the merrier. I mean, but having even 5 reviews is better than 0. So and you're just setting yourself up to sell that to this person who needs you right now. And they may, even though you may have had an ad on Facebook, they're not going to remember that. They're going to go to their phone when they need it now. Sometimes it does come from word of mouth. And a lot of times mine does. I'm in a position where a lot of my stuff is organic driven. People have come to know us, but that takes time. In the short game, really, you've got to be powerful in the immediate need, being able to be found easily, even though they don't know you. But both work synergistically over time. And so yeah, but the BNI thing is super powerful. Shaking hands, and you're not really, like you said, you're not selling. The meeting I was at this morning, I mean, I told the group, I said, I just told them of course, I tell them who our company is and all that, but I told them, I said, well, I really hope that nobody in this room needs our services. And I sincerely mean that. But if you do, we're the people that you want to call. So, it's, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, if we're showing up, it's not good. And we're there because you got a foundational problem, and nobody wants foundation problems with their property. It can be a expensive chore. It can be, people think it's, that their property is now doomed to just like got the void sticker on it now, or whatever you want to call it, but it's not true. these things just happen. And especially what region you're in, out in the Midwest or in Texas, this is a major problem because of the type of soil they have. Here in Georgia, you have it because a lot of things are just built shoddy, and they're built on sloping lots and things like that. So we see a lot of that here. And every region has its own unique reasons why they have foundational issues. So it's like a car, when, you got to get the freaking timing belt replaced. I mean, it wasn't meant to last forever. I mean, things are going to move and change, and a structure is no different. And sometimes explaining that to a customer can be tough, but yeah, it's what we do, and unfortunately, a lot of people need us. So it's a necessary business, but I hate it for people that do call us because I know they're not happy. They're already frustrated, and they may have gotten a price from somebody else that was super expensive. They may have already paid somebody else a lot of money to do something, and it wasn't the right thing. So there's a lot of things that go into that as far as the inspection and the process of what needs to happen. But that comes to just having a skill set and how you're set up. But I hear that all the time. I get people call me that they hired one of my competitors and they're super angry. They paid, tens of thousands of dollars, and we're coming out there and fixing their problem for a fraction of that. So sometimes, we're comparable, and sometimes we're more expensive than the competition because our solution is more superior, it's more thorough. Some guys will, just because they want to get the sell, they're trying to sell somebody on a partial idea, that not really explaining that they need a lot more than I'm trying to sell them. So there's always that goes into it as well. So having a good reputation, all this ties into that process.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's funny too, because I always thought of your business, it's almost like, you have cancer. It's a terrible way to look at it, as the customer, but more or less like, hey, there are cancer doctors. Thank God for that. You never want to see them, right? Especially when you have the diagnosis. So on the house, that is what it is, right? It's cancer, and you're 50 years old or you're 60 years old, just like the house is, hypothetically. Could also be much younger than that. Happens to everyone to some extent. And yeah, you don't want to deal with it, but you have to deal with it. You're not just going to demolish your house. You're not going to just try to sell it, because you're going to incur difficulties as you try to do that if you're going to do it and not disclose it. So it's interesting. It's like, all right, so this is a problem. It is what it is. You guys are the cancer doctors, more or less. You don't want to see you guys, but you want to see you guys because you're the good ones, versus the cancer doctors who, some miracle, they made it through. They paid off their professor to pass the last class or something, or maybe to pass the first class.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys get to help with that, it's a blessing. It's pretty amazing that you guys are there to help, and that you're doing the ethical, right way of doing it rather than the shoddy way of doing it. And the cancer shows back up, a year or two later. It is interesting. Yeah, the sales aspect of people trying to trick the customers almost so they can get the commission. Like, all right, let me see these other quotes. I'll beat them by half, but they're not giving the fullest solution. So right. It's a weird kind of mix of an industry, how that deals with. It's like saying, hey, you're going to get chemo for 8 weeks versus, 8 sessions in 4 weeks. Well, to everyone, they would think the 4 weeks is better, but it's not necessarily better. So that's where you got to look at those reviews. Like you said, just because someone has 400 reviews does not mean that they're the best one. Even if those reviews are pretty decent, they may have been the ones who gave the cheap prices, and those reviews are going to turn around 10 years from now when the vast majority of those people who gave the reviews start having the same problems again. So I guess to the audience, like you said earlier, having 0 reviews versus having 5 reviews, you may do better work than the people who have 5 reviews, but you, to represent to your audience, need to take the onus of getting reviews so you could beat out the big bad guys, if and when those big guys are the bad guys. So I know, Tom-wise, we got to wrap up for you pretty soon here.
Thanks for joining us today for another revealing episode of Foundation Repair Marketing Secrets. Don't forget to subscribe so you can keep discovering the tools, tactics, and techniques to ensure your online presence is as solid as the foundations you repair. Keep digging deep, and we'll see you in the next episode.